Hi friends, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I promised you I would come back and share with you my gluten-free banana bread with a marbled swirl. It is really good. So I'm going to start with, and I printed off my recipe because I've had this was on my other gluten-free website that I had with all my recipes. So I had to save them and print them and stuff, and I'll be putting them on cards pretty soon. So basically, this is called a chocolate marble swirl banana bread. And the reason I created it was because I had bananas one day and I was craving banana bread. But the only banana bread I knew or had a recipe for at the time, because this was years ago when we realized that gluten was an issue for my daughter and myself, and then we found out our other daughter. So I worked with the flours, and back then there really weren't a lot of options. So I kind of like modify it based on what flours I have in the house. And you can use any type of flours that you prefer, as long as they're gluten-free, if this is your choice. Now, if you are not gluten intolerant, you could probably use regular flour. And there's a few things that you won't need to do, such as putting in some xanthan gum. I put xanthan gum in some things, unless the flour I pick up might have it. And sometimes I don't even put the xanthan gum in, but I'm making a bread and that's what I want to have in there. So the first thing is we're going to need 2 cups of gluten-free flour. So I'm going to change this a little bit so you can see me a little bit better, I think, if things will work out for me. So I have 1 cup here already measured out, getting that in there. Here's another cup measured out. And making a floury mess, but I don't care because today I'm going to do a clean sweep of the house and I can't wait. Okay, I know that sounds awkward, but I've been just doing a lot of preserving and stuff, and I'm dying to scrub down my cupboards and stuff. Okay, so bear with me. Enjoy the humor. All right, so the next thing that I want to do, I realize I got extra things in here, is I want to have 3/4 tablespoon of baking soda. And yes, I buy it in bulk, so this is a 3/4 teaspoon measuring unit. That's all you need, 3/4 teaspoon. I think I said cup. For that, I'm sorry. Next thing you need is 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum. And then you need a cup of sugar. I prefer organic sugar. You can use whatever sugar that works for you. I don't do stevia because I haven't tried it in this yet, although it would be great. But I didn't have my stevia plant this year. Last year I had 4 and just not enough. I still have maybe a couple cups worth, but all right, so a cup of sugar. So far, 2 cups of gluten-free flour, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum, and a cup of sugar. Let's mix that together. And basically, wooden spoon or however you decide to mix it, that's what you do. All right, now I need a 1/4 cup of, for me, it's milk-free butter, okay? And this is Earth Balance. It's just, you know what? I'm craving something sweet for me to enjoy as well. Otherwise, I would use regular butter, and regular butter doesn't bother me. But say, for instance, I go and I visit my daughter, who is gluten and dairy-free as well, and she has a severe allergic to milk, so we're just going to play it safe. And plus, I don't think Dave and I are going to eat the whole thing. Now, it says softened. I realize that some people might like to use their microwave. I don't. So I'm going to just heat it up real quick. It won't take very long to warm it up on the lowest setting. While that's melting down, I have already mashed up my lovely bananas. Now it says 2 to 5 bananas. You know what? I only have 2. So guess what's going in here? That's right, 2 bananas. We're going to put that in there. I already mashed it up to save some time. Plus I'm trying to do everything without the electric beaters and stuff. Keeps it quieter. And then mix that in. I'm going to use a wooden spoon here. And we also need to put in there 2 eggs. I've already got them. I always break them separate just in case one of the eggs had issues. That's one. Farm fresh eggs are best. If you can't get farm fresh, if you're allergic to eggs, sensitive to eggs, there are alternates for eggs, which is flaxseed. You can use, there's egg substitute. It's like 1 tablespoon and then 2 tablespoons of water is pretty much the ratio that you would do. Now, normally I would use coconut milk, but all I have is oat milk. You see, there's flexibility with this, with what you have, and I found that oat milk works really nice in recipes. So 1/3 cup of oat milk. And let's see, we'll keep those going, and while that is cooling down, or excuse me, while the butter is melting. Now, yes, you could use your microwave if that's your option. I choose not to use our microwave. I avoid it as much as possible. That does not mean we don't have one. We use it mostly for therapy bags. Oops, sorry for the noise. And then I make some more. And even though I had 2 eggs, it's mixing in really nicely. And I actually used 2 different types of flour because I was running low on the gluten-free flour. So I used the last cup of that. Apparently somebody has to place an order. Actually, I have some on hand. And then I'm using a cup of garbanzo flour. Just trying to keep it healthy. But I do incorporate some of the other flours partly because I enjoy them, but the other part is if I get to a point where I have to use an alternate flour and grind it myself, I know that I have some garbanzo beans on hand, I have oatmeal, I have different grains that I can just grind down into flour. So we're going into some interesting times, so it's always good to have backup ideas. So that's all mixed in really nice. Let's see if this is softened. Turn that heater up, and yes, there's water underneath. I did check. I do recall putting it in there, but it's not softening up as fast as I thought it would. And then I told you this was going to be a chocolate swirl, correct? Yep, I do. And you know what I got? And yes, I have another bag to fill this with. This is Belgium dark chocolate chips. Now I can get it in chip form, which is the way I normally order it, and I order it in bulk. And I have a little bit, just 1 more small bag, so I'll have to order again. But that works really well in here, and it doesn't give me the headache. Somebody had given me some chocolate recently, and it was dark chocolate, and it had some almonds in it, because I like almonds, my husband doesn't, so I had some, and I had it like late afternoon yesterday, and I woke up with a migraine, and I looked at it, there's milk in it. So you have to be really careful. For me, I get massive headaches. So when I woke up with the headache, I'm like, it's got to be the chocolate. And sure enough, it had milk in it. And sometimes the other thing that gives me headaches is too much sugar. And yes, there's a cup of sugar in this, but just one slice of bread will not make the end of the world, and I need something homemade. Plus, I promised you. I should have started the butter sooner. It's melting up really nice now. Now, I haven't done it, but one of the things that I would do with this is if I wanted to make zucchini bread, I would kind of do it very similar, but I might have different measurements and stuff. But let's just focus on this. I've already greased my bread pan, and we're only making one loaf here. And that's typically how I prefer to do it, is just one loaf. If I make a batch with 2 loaves, I end up freezing it, and quite honestly, I'd rather not if I have the capabilities of baking. Now I've already started the preheating at 350. So I cut the butter so it melts better. And I turn it off before it is actually totally melted, because I don't find that it needs to be, I don't feel that it needs to be totally melted. So I'm going to pour that in there. And we're going to save that pan because I have plans for that. Mix this all in. Okay, the next thing I need to do though is I need to take a 1/2 cup, I believe. I do 1/2 cup of these chips. I had a 1/2 cup measure, but you know what? I'm gonna eye it. And if I get too many, so be it. Now that's about 1/2 cup. All right, we're gonna soften the chocolate now. And yes, it's a little bit more than 1/2 cup. It will not hurt the bread, trust me. And we're going to turn that back on. Now, leaving the butter in there is actually not the end of the world either. It kind of coats the chips a little bit, and it won't take very long. Continue to mix this up. I've actually been enjoying not using my mixer. I love the mixer. It was very handy when I was diagnosed with Lyme disease because the weakness in my body was horrible. But this year, as I'm trying to build up my muscle strength and everything, and I really need to do that, I'm not using the mixer as much. Will I? Yes, occasionally, like if I need a lot of stuff to be done. But right now, little batch, a small loaf of bread, not necessarily needed. It's almost there, folks. I've almost got my chocolate melted. And I do this. I melt my butter and my chocolate. I can't even think of the term. I'll put it in the description later. Okay, so turn it off, and you can see that the chocolate is nice and mixed well. Now what we're going to do, okay, before we put the mix into the pan, we're going to put 1/2 cup of the mixture in with the chocolate. Or is it half of it? I have to read the directions. Half of the mixture is going to go in there. So what I'm going to do, put those into soak and take half this mixture and put it into this container. And this is an eyeball thing, you know, you don't have to be exact. All right. And then you take the chocolate and put it in with that half batch of the mixture. Yes, I am tempted to stick my finger in and lick it. Actually, this chocolate is really, really good. But I also like to make sure I get every morsel into my baked goods. That's why I use these kind of rubber type silicone or whatever spatulas I have. Anyways. And then that part is ready, and then you just kind of mix this in. Okay, so you're just going to blend it all in there. All right. I bet you know what the next step is. Take your bread pan that is already prepared. Hold on a second. Let me move this out of the way. There's no handle to the bottom of this, so one must be very careful. Bring over your bread pan that you have already pre-greased, whether it's with butter, lard, whatever it is you use. Lard is better than shortening. Use what you have on hand. If you have spray things and that's your preference, do that. I should have done it with this. I should have thought about it, because the wrapper that the butter was in, I could have done that. And that's a milk-free butter. So now I'm just going to put this right into the bread pan. Now these flours worked really well. A long time ago when I started working with gluten-free flour, when it first came out, they were awful. Yes, I whispered, but you heard me. They were not very flavorful. So it took me a long time to figure out how can I make these better. Okay, you put that in there. Kind of even it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. So far, we have half a loaf. Now, we're going to take the rest of this and we're going to put it on top. There was some on here too. And so what you do, if you have never marbled before, I'm going to try to bring this over onto my now dusty counter. And what you do is you just kind of like bring it in like this. And it's better, easier, if you use a knife of some sort. Or fork, whatever you want to use. Because it's thinner and it doesn't catch it as easy. At least that's in my experience. My stove is at temperature, which is because we preheat. If you're not one to preheat your oven, try to do that so that it's up to temperature so that you can put your baked goods in, whether it's this or anything. and just start cutting it through. You can do a little marbled type mixing in if you'd like. And just blend it in a little bit. Now I know it looks messy. There's like a couple of ways that you can do this, but do you see how it's nice and marbled in there? Get all that goodness in there. And pop this right into the oven. Try to put it in the center of your oven so it gets more of an even heat. If you're making 2 loaves, just evenly place them in there. Let's just see if there's any more of my notes that might be able to. Okay, yep. Take the mixing spoon or the knife. I prefer a knife. I find that it works a lot better. Put that in there. Let's see the timing before I forget. You're going to bake it for an hour and 15 minutes. No, I will not talk for an hour and 15 minutes, although you know I can. What I do typically is I cook it for the first hour. I cook it for the first hour, and then I check it to make sure it's done. And you'll be able to tell if it's done without using the toothpick at that point. But because generally speaking, if the bread is getting close to done, it's coming away from the side and you can see the brown around the edges. And that's a good sign that it's just about done if it's not already completely done. So you take that and then test it with a toothpick or whatever tester that you might have for checking your breads and anything else that you use to test with. So I am going to repeat the recipe. I really do need to get it on my recipe card. Let me see some of the things that I put this up on 2014. That's how long I've been making this. So the other part of the reason that I wanted to share, and I wrote it there too, the best part about baking from scratch is we use up what we had. I had 2 bananas left. If you have 3, you can use up to 5 small bananas. I had 2, and that's going to be fine. It's going to, as you saw, that mixture was fine. So whatever you have, if you have 3 bananas, that works too. Let's see. Now, although we enjoy the bananas, this is what I wrote, in our household, sometimes they ripen a little faster than we have time to eat them. And that's what happened. My husband loves bananas. I like them. I don't love them. And most of the time when I buy them, we kind of cut them in half. I take half, he eats the other half. And we kind of stretch the bananas out throughout the week. But he picked them up the other day, and I really haven't been in the mood for bananas, and he was. And he was disappointed when I told him I was going to bake with him. But like I said yesterday, he hasn't eaten them. So fortunately, one can either freeze them for future smoothies or future baking needs. Sometimes I do that, but I really didn't want to put it in my freezer. I wanted to bake a treat. It's been a while since I've baked something, and you might have already noticed that because I haven't put anything baked on here since the molasses cookies. You might want to go back to that. Those are phenomenal cookies, and I honestly have not baked, dessert type goods since then. Instead of freezing, we're going to use them in this recipe. If you want to change it up, and I don't like it this way, I did try it. If you like cinnamon, cinnamon has many health benefits. You can add it to your topping or within your mixture. How much would I put in? I think it really depends on how much you like cinnamon. I would start with a 1/4 teaspoon or less. I love cinnamon. I put cinnamon in teas sometimes. I put it on oatmeal, but I would be very careful not to put too much in because you got a lot of other stuff like the chocolate. So, and some people like cinnamon chocolate too. Let's see, and I did the marbleized on this because my husband in the past has always loved marbleized cakes when I make them for him. Poor guy, I don't make them enough. So I'm going to repeat the recipe for you. So take notes. 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Gluten-free is what I use. Now you can mix up your flours like I did today. I used garbanzo and I used gluten-free. You can use whatever flour you want. 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, if you are gluten intolerant, you need to add 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum. You want a cup of sugar. Use whatever sugar you choose. I am not using a substitute, so for those who say, well, what do you use instead of sugar? There's no substitute for this bread. You're going to have to go with the organic sugar. And I think sometimes people misunderstand the benefit of sugar sometimes, most especially if you're not one who eats desserts all the time. It's okay to have regular sugar. And like I'm using organic because I feel better about using organic. You do yourself. Can you use stevia? Yes, you can. It's 1-to-1. If you're going to have 1 cup of sugar, you use 1 cup of stevia. And that might explain why I don't use the stevia in my baking, because I don't have a problem with green sugar in my baked goods, but I prefer not to use them that much. I could do a partial of it if you wanted to. And my husband, even though he will put stevia in his tea once in a while, generally he prefers honey. And he does not, by the way, he is not a tea drinker. He doesn't like stevia the same way he likes sugar, but he's okay with the organic sugar. And what you'll notice is that organic sugar has a beige tint to it, and that's how you'll know that you've got organic. All right, so we got the 1 cup sugar. Next thing, 1/4 cup. We're dairy-free here, my daughters and myself, so we use a 1/4 cup of dairy-free butter. Now, I have learned that I'm doing okay as long as I use real butter. And I'm talking like from the Amish people or something right from the farm. I can use real butter. Now, I did not put salt into this. I don't know if my husband's going to be upset, and I don't know if this has salt in it. The label does not say on this. And yes, it does say something. No, it doesn't. So even still, I don't put a lot of salt in my stuff anyway. You could put, if your butter does not have salt, but you like salt, I would recommend buying this salted butter. Or you could put, a pinch of salt in it if you wish. Try to use real salt with no iodine in it. It's better for you. Let's see. Okay, so we got the butter. Your choice. Substitute butter, organic, plant-based, whatever you choose. Then we use 1.5 to 2 cups of mashed bananas. I think mine was about a cup, so I didn't use as much as they recommended. And that's about 5 small bananas. These were kind of medium, so I was okay with what I used. So that's where it comes with. So it's 1.5 to 2 cups of bananas. I find using on the lower end to be more enjoyable. If you really like the taste of bananas, use more. Let's see, the next thing is 2 eggs. And what I do is I crack them separately to make sure there's nothing wrong with the egg. You can get an egg even from your homegrown, your farm fresh eggs from the farm stand or your own chickens and still have problems with your eggs. So I always crack them separately. And if you have confidence, just plop them all in there. Sometimes I break them apart and then throw them in. I've just gotten into that habit because a couple of times I've had bad eggs. And then I'm like, I just ruined, because like if I'm making a quiche, I use 6 eggs. You waste the whole batch of eggs. So that's why I got in the habit. My husband loves quiche. I love quiche, but I can't have it anymore. So anyways, we got 2 eggs. 1/3 cup. My original recipe is coconut milk. Today I used oat milk. Use the milk that is most appropriate for you, what you have available. It's not going to make a difference, really. And then I used 1/2 cup of milk-free chocolate chips. Now there is a brand called Enjoy, E-N-J-O-Y, that I do use on occasion when I'm baking for my daughter. I can't, for some reason, that chocolate gives me headaches too. But I do have them on hand, and I do buy them so that when I'm making her something, I have it on hand. Or when my grandkids are over, I can bake with those, because she's generally with them, or if she's off to do something, she comes back, she wants to have some cookies too. So I use those for that. Let's see, and then coconut oil, coconut spray, use your butter wrapper, whatever, to coat your bread pan. I do not flour my bread pans, by the way. Preheat your oven to 350. Then when you lightly combine all your dry ingredients, and then you start adding your moist ingredients in, except for the chocolate. Once everything is all mixed up, take half of it, put it in another bowl, and then you can put the main mixture into your bread pan, your prepared bread pan, and then take the other half and then just kind of marbleize it in. Now, maybe you don't want it that thick with all those colors. You can take a third of it and do that too, and it makes it less. What you can do is separate this batter in 3 parts. Put a third in your bread pan. Take a third and mix it with the chocolate, all right? Mix it up, put that layer on. Then take the last third and put that on top, and then marbleize it too. You can do it multiple ways, whatever works best for you. And the option that I just shared with you actually comes out a little bit different in how it looks. So you're going to, let's see, you got all the dry ingredients, you got the mixed up. You know, in 2014, I was using my microwave because I got my microwave notes here. I don't anymore. You know what? Double boiler. There we go. I knew I would get it. Having a double boiler is just as easy. Maybe it takes a little bit longer, but it's actually better for your food. But I'm not here to lecture you. You do what you want to do. Now add 1 cup. Yeah, that's where I said if you want to mix it, take a cup of it or take half, whatever works for you. Now, once you finish doing that, you put it in the preheated oven, 350, and you let it bake for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Set the timer for 1 hour and check, because all of our elevations are different. Our stoves all work different. And if you're using a solar oven or you're using a wood stove, everything is relative. So just on the hour mark, take a look. And then you will use the toothpick. If it looks like around the edges, it's all done. So when it's all done, you pull it out of the oven and you let it cool for 10 minutes. And then you can take it out. And then let it cool completely on the wire rack. So that might be 20-30 minutes, folks. You might just have to wait. And then when it's done, you slice it the way you want. Yeah, you can cut it in 4ths and have it that way, but cut it in appropriate serving sizes so that you can enjoy it with your spouse, your children, whomever. So I will try to figure out how to maybe add in when I take this out. But that's how you bake it. If I can't get it all figured out, this is the end of it. Otherwise, I'll come back and share that little bit with you. I hope that you have a great day. God bless, and I'll talk to you soon.